Today, we get to hear from someone incredibly special, a teen who was recently adopted from foster care after being in over 70 homes. Join us today on Fostering the Future.
Welcome to the Fostering the Future podcast, a show about all things child welfare, dependency, adoption, and foster care. Here are your hosts, veterans in the world of child welfare, Jack and Kat.
We believe that every human has incredible and equal value regardless of what side of the courtroom we sit on. We hope that everyone feels welcome and accepted here on Fostering the Future.
Make sure you follow us on Facebook or Instagram as Fostering the Future Podcast, or check us out on our website at fosteringthefuturepodcast.org.
This is Jack, and I am here with Nichole. And Nichole brought a friend today, didn't you?
I did.
Would you like to introduce this handsome young man, Nichole?
I am here today with my son, Sisco.
Welcome, Sisco.
What's up?
Thank you so much for being here today, Sisco. I have a very serious question to ask you.
Yeah, what's up?
What's your favorite drink at Starbucks?
Caramel Ribbon Crunch.
I literally wrote here probably something Frappuccino-ish.
Yeah. With extra caramel.
Yeah, with
Lots of extra caramel.
Now, is yours cream-based as well, or do you go with the coffee?
I go with the coffee.
So I am so glad you're here. We want you to share with us your story and kind of what brought you into foster care.
Okay, I was in like a very abusive situation with me, my mom, and my so-called stepfather. He was very abusive, especially to me and my mom. And he smoked a lot of weed and he had a lot of bipolar. You know, sometimes there was days where he would be nice and there would be some times where he's not, you know what I'm saying? So it was like very hard for me at sometimes because, you know, I was so young and
he was like a father figure to you, right?
Yeah, he was in moments, you know what I'm saying? He was, and I kind of like do the things now that sometimes he does. And I don't want to because it's like, I never liked him, you know what I'm saying? So it's like.
How old were you when he was in your life?
My dad left me when I was 2. He left me and my mom when I was 2 years old. And Perry came into my life when I was like 3. Yeah, he was a father figure to me for 7, 8 years. And my mom left him, came back, left him, came back. And then my mom had twins with him. Till this day, she regrets having kids with him because of all the things he's done, especially to me and her.
Well, and then it like further ties you to someone, right? So it's hard enough to leave an abusive situation for anybody. But then once you have kids with them, like legally, you're kind of stuck with them until those kids are grown.
Yeah. He put her on child support and he would like, oh, I'm going to go to the courts, this and that. If you try to take him back and said you did drugs, you did this, you did that.
Oh, so he took the girls and made her pay him child support.
Yes. And it's very hard for my mom because when all her kids were gone and even now when I talk to her, she doesn't, you know, she recently just lost her mom and I lost my grandma. And it was very hard for me because I loved her like a lot. And I know how hard it is to just lose a mom because I haven't lost my mom yet, but it's hard for everybody to lose their own mom. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and also, but you were in a situation where you were removed from your mom. So even though she's still there and she's always going to be a part of your life, in a way, you did lose that aspect of living with her every day. So you kind of can probably relate to her better than a lot of people.
Yeah, I want to say my situation is bad because I know other people are even worse than my situation. But I will say that I had a rough childhood and I'm trying to make myself a better person. Moving here with Nichole and everything, it was very hard for me at first to like fit in. I was in foster care for 4.5 years and I didn't have no parent or guardian figure to help me
You were not in traditional foster homes.
Exactly. And I asked case managers and case manager supervisors, even the director, if I can get a foster home, but nobody would take me because of whatever that book had to say about me. And of course, when foster parents would look at that, they would see me as a terrible, terrible person. I feel like if the kid is having a problem, they should help that person instead of just, you know what I'm saying, just leaning away from them and just wanting to get the goody two shoes. You know what I'm saying?
Sisco is referring to something in our area called a blue book that is given to foster parents. It is essentially, allegedly, everything about the child on paper.
Like all the records of any behavioral problems, medical problems, diagnosis, stuff like that.
But he is right. Paper does not describe a person or a human being. It might describe circumstances or situations, but not who the person is.
And it also doesn't show the full picture.
Right.
Because kids a lot of the time don't get to really tell their side of the story or the circumstances. And a lot of the times they do things and they don't even know why they do it, but something could have triggered them. I remember when I had this one placement, I remember exactly where I was when this happened. I had to bring his blue book with me because we were going to an appointment of some sort. I don't know if he was sitting next to me or in the back seat or whatever, when his eyes looked down and saw his blue book. And his face went like white. And he looked at me and he goes, "Don't read that. Don't read that. You didn't read that. Please don't read that." He goes, "Can I have that book? I want to throw it out." And I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "Every time someone reads my book, I'm gone the next day." And I had read the book. I knew it was in there, not because I thought that described the boy, but it gave me a better picture of not what the boy did, but what had been done to the boy. And so what I told him is I said, I've already read it and I don't feel any different about you. His whole face was like, he was so scared. He's like, "Please don't send me away. Please don't send me away." And I'm like, "Listen, I'm not sending you away until," it wasn't a permanent placement. He was only supposed to be there a night. Like, you know how those go. I'm like, "I'm not sending you away." Sitting. And what I had always told him is like, "I'm not going to send you away. I'm going to find a family for you. Right. Like, you're going to stay here until we have a really good place for you to go." But he was terrified of that book. He always was like, "Can I have that book? I want to burn it." And I'm like, "Listen, I'm not allowed to let you burn it right now. I'll get in trouble. But like, you got to stop worrying about that book. And that book does not tell me who you are. If anything, that book tells me all of the crap that you've had to go through. Right. And it just helps me maybe stop some of the triggers that might hit you." But I do know a lot of people look at a book and they're like, "Oh, look at all these diagnoses." Like, yeah.
I like the books because sometimes kids come to you and you might not know their name.
Right.
So the book tells you the name.
Placement's good at that sometimes. Yeah. "Oh, will you take this kid out?" And then I'll text them later, "You forgot to tell me their name."
Right. Or birthdays, which I like to know because I've gotten placements that their birthday is like 2 days later. So that might make me say it's temporary night placement, but
I'll extend it so they're here for their birthday.
Right. So we can do something for their birthday. I've done that a couple of times. The other reason I like it specifically in Sisco's situation is because there are papers in there that tell you what brought them into care. And it is helpful to know what situation they're coming from so you don't step in it. Yeah. Frankly, right? Like, you don't say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing to trigger that person.
Yeah, because sometimes we trigger our kids without realizing it because we don't know what they've been through. Yeah, but I can totally understand why blue books can be triggering to kids.
Are you able to share anything about when you were removed?
Me and my grandpa was, we were working on this car he was getting paid for. He's a mechanic. He was a retired mechanic, and the guy hit him up to fix his car and everything. I guess he had to remove an engine out and everything. Yeah. After I told the school about, you know, my mom doing this and that, they came around. I seen a white car come and she's just staring, and, you know, my grandpa was just looking, and he was like, "Why is she looking over here?" You know, he get pissed off at that type of things. You know what I'm saying? He don't like people on his property. She goes around, right? And all of a sudden she comes and there's two top cop cars behind her, and they pull up, and, you know, my grandpa was like, "Oh, what are y'all doing on my property? This and that." "Oh, we have a thing, this and that. We have to take him into care, take him, do this." And my mom came outside and she started crying. She was like, "Oh, you're not taking my son?" And then the police officer, "Oh, we'll take him by force." You know, it was my first time I've ever seen in my life story, see my grandma cry. I've always seen her mad, and I seen her cry that day, and my mom was just, you know, crying, and she was like, oh, we need to go inside and pack this and that. And I was like, I'm not leaving with them. I was so little, so I didn't really know. I was like, I don't know who that is, Mom. She was like, they're going to take you away because all the things you said to the school and everything. And I was like, I just wanted you to get help. I didn't want to get taken away from you, this and that. And that's what they told me. They were like, we're going to get your mom help. They brought me in. I didn't feel like scared. I just felt nervous.
Where did they take you?
To a CPI office or something like that.
Okay.
I was sitting in there. I was with, I guess, CPI. I guess because you have to like be in CPI for so long, and then wherever county you got taken away from, that's where you're like
whatever agency
exactly. They put you with.
When it happened, your mom said to you, it's because you told someone, or like you've been through therapy and you know that you didn't come into care because of anything you did.
I tell people this all the time, and people are like, oh, it's not your fault, this and that. I mean, I would not be in this situation if I didn't say that. I use that as an excuse, and I know I did because that's what I did to get out of trouble at school. Because the lady asked me why do you keep getting in trouble at school? And I told her, because my mom was doing drugs. That's what I said. And she was like, oh, really, really? So they wouldn't be like mad at me or anything. So they would just like, lay off me. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it got too deep. So I said, okay, I mean, maybe this is a chance for my mom to get better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
But like, you were trying to help your mom.
Yeah,
like,
I wasn't trying to.
You weren't doing anything wrong, and thinking that it's your fault because you were trying to get out of trouble. Like, you probably were getting in trouble because you were stressed out about your mom. But like, that it's not your fault, right?
I mean, there's some days where I think it is, and there's some days where it's not even nobody's fault. Throughout foster care, it was always like being in jail for me. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you have to fight sometimes. You got somebody stealing your stuff or something like that, and it was really hard for me at first, so I didn't know really much when I came in, and I got taught crazy things that I never knew before.
Probably shouldn't have been taught.
Probably should have. Yeah, to be honest. Yeah.
Actually, you spent all of your time in group homes.
Yeah, because
right.
Like I said, that blue book is just everything that a foster parent needs to see. There is really good foster parents like Nichole. There has been a lot of bad times moving in, and I left once because it was like really hard for her, but it was like I came back and I was still doing crazy things, and it was like she never gave up. And
that's what moms do.
even today, like every day, I'm just like, how, what I'm saying? How am I still here? Because at this point, like all the things I've did and said to her and the things I did in the house, I would have been gone in an instant anywhere else,
But that's like what permanency is, right? My kids can do some crazy stuff, right? And like there are consequences sometimes, but when you're family and you don't give up. Yeah, I mean, that's what permanency is supposed to be.
Right.
And you're supposed to be able to screw up. And especially what you've gone through, it's understandable that, you might not always make the right choices.
Yeah.
Sisco came to me one night. I remember placement calling saying they have, a teen boy. He was 15 at the time. And he was getting disrupted from a group home. And so my first question is, why?
Right.
Why is he being disrupted from a group home? The day that he came, I had been licensed for 1 month. The day that they called me, I had only been licensed as a foster parent for 1 month. So in my head, I was disillusioned, and I'm like, they don't disrupt from group homes. What are you talking about?
I think
that's not a thing.
Every teen I've ever taken was disrupted from a group home.
Wow.
And I feel like a lot of the times when teens come into foster care, they just automatically send them to group homes because they just assume they're a teen, they're probably a problem. Let's use these foster homes for the younger kids. And that's not really fair to like automatically default to sending these kids to group homes. So, and people might have a bed available.
Right.
And maybe they're a problem after they're in a group home. Maybe they wouldn't have been if they could have been like, and obviously not all foster homes are always as safe as they should be.
Right.
But you would hope that it would be a more favorable experience than a group home.
I mean, the reason he was disrupted that night was he was on his cell phone past 10 p.m. And then they got him there like super late. I still really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I was just like, here's the shower, here's the bedroom, whatever. I was like, do you need a phone charger? He had one, and he like passed out on the bed, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Because it was like 1:00 in the morning by the time, he was there or something. But I totally like read the blue book. immediately, like the minute he was passed out. And all I thought in that was reading that was like, this sucks. His book was filled out pretty substantially. And so I could see the various placements he had and stuff
So
like
what
that.
sucked was what he had been through since going into foster care.
What sucked was what he had been through, and that he had come in at this like preteen age and was consistently placed in group homes. That to me is what stood out in the Blue Book.
When we say over 70 placements, like how is that possible?
Because there were night-to-night placements, and every single time you sleep in a different bed with a different address, it is considered a placement.
Really?
He had long group home placements where he was there like, almost a year or something
Almost
like
about
that.
2 years. It was like my second group home. It was amazing. It's a therapeutic group home. I hit 13 and started doing some crazy things, and time goes past and they were like, we can't handle him no more. So they kicked me out.
What can you tell us about your experience in group homes as far as like what the living conditions were?
Actually, there was this Jamaican like foster home or something. I think they were Jamaican or something. Their house was so hot. It was like a desert. I would lay in my bed and I would be sweating.
Oh my
and
gosh.
then there would be like, well, we'll get the AT person or something. I'm like,
Oh, their AC was broke.
no, it wasn't. But I guess there was something wrong with it or something like that. And I was like, y'all are used to this? They're like, yeah, I mean, we can't. It's cold in here. I was like, wait, what? I'm skinless.
Right.
I was like a boneless chicken in there. It was bad. It was super
gosh.
bad. I had to sleep in my boxers, just nothing else. Like I would say that one, and probably that would be it. The rest of the group homes, they took me to some decent group homes. They didn't take me to some bad group homes. All 70 placements that I've been to, half of them I can't even remember because it was just a night, and sometimes I would be so exhausted. I would be there at 1:00 in the morning.
Why do kids get dropped off so late? Like, why does that happen? Is it just they don't have enough transporters?
Well, one is that, yes, they don't have enough transporters, and they get packed because there's so many kids that disrupt, and they have to go those kids go night to night as well. And they only have like 3 transporters with like 5 kids in each, and they'll go to the closest one. The closest one to that office. Or like,
so if you're far from the office, all your drop-offs are going to be at like 2:00 in the morning.
it's really like that. And the transporters don't get home till like 3 a.m, and then they got to do early morning pickups.
In that 4 hours that you slept, the transporter hasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like both, you know what I'm saying? So
the person that picked him up it wasn't his case manager, but it was somebody who knew him well or had maybe been a previous case manager or something like that. So I immediately was like, he like got along with my kids. He liked my dog. Like everything was super easy. So I was like, hey, like, does he have placement tonight? And she was like, I don't know. You got to talk to somebody else. So I had followed up multiple times that day and the following weeks until I was ultimately told, like, oh, no, he had secured placement. But in reality...
So the first time he came was just for a night?
It was for one night. And he had not secured placement. I found out after seeing placement records.
I mean, I've heard some horror stories about group homes, but the things that I hear the most about kids who have spent a lot of time in group homes, I guess the two things would be A, the exposure, just learning a lot of things that they wish they hadn't learned, especially at whatever age, but then also having their stuff taken all the time by the other kids. Like this one kid told me that like if you're not wearing the stuff, like he would sleep with his sneakers or his sneakers would get stolen and he would shove his stuff in his pockets or they'd take his stuff. Like,
well, there is group homes where like gangs or something like that. But when I first came, I was young, so I had like 17-year-olds bullying me out of my shoes.
But you weren't 6'2" then.
Yeah, I wasn't 6'2". It's not about like size or anything. It was just because I was so young. So they would be like, oh, can I borrow some money? And they're really just stealing it. And they just never gave me back. They'll just finesse you, which is stealing.
Yeah.
Jack Jr. has experienced kids coming from group homes and then asking to borrow all his birthday money and all his Christmas money. And, Jack Jr. is like, oh, okay. Or he's like scared they're gonna. We had one kid who was like, hey, give me that or I'll beat you up. I'm like, did you think I was gonna let him beat you up? Like, why'd you give him all your birthday money?
It's a fight for your things. You got to fight for them. But I had a lot of things taken from me when I first come in foster care. But throughout time, I learned things. I learned how to...
You figured out how to stick up for yourself and not to let people take advantage of you.
Yeah.
You had a lot of your stuff in the office. So how did you get that? Were they keeping your things because you were like night to night so that you wouldn't lose your things? Or did you ask them, or did someone offer?
Sometimes I would be like, can I just leave this here for the night?
While you were going through this process of like jumping placement to placement, that's like one aspect of it. Were you participating in court?
I attended basically all of them except for, I guess they didn't want me, I guess because they were like, oh, something's going to go on today.
How long was your mom's case plan before the termination happened?
I don't know, to be honest, like about a couple years.
About 2 years.
Yeah, and I guess she wasn't doing the things she needed to do, and her new boyfriend now couldn't get there in time and everything, and he had things to do as well. So it was hard for her for transportation. Termination, when I heard that, I was like, what is that? I was like, what does that mean? Like, they're like, oh, you won't be able to see your mom. Your mom can't get you no more. So, you might stay here till you're 18 or something. I'm like, what? It's not fair to us to have to, for people with a small situation like me, because my mom did drugs. I mean, I could see because one, you got taken away because your mom is a beater or your dad's a beater, or your mom raped you, or your mom did, or your dad raped you. Boom, boom, boom. They need to give more time for the kids that their situation is not as bad because it's not as severe as a mom or a dad beating a child. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think it's fair to you or to other kids to kind of wait on that process? Like, I think as an older kid, it makes more sense to you. But if you were to place a little kid in that situation, like, should a little kid have to also potentially wait for what we call permanency versus always living in limbo and foster care?
Yeah, I mean, it's good for kids to get united with other foster homes and everything, but I don't know. It's just with me, I just feel like
you wish they would have given her more time.
And they told me that they were gonna help her, and I guess she wasn't trying, and this and that, and they never let me try to talk to her and try to see if like she can, I mean, I wanted to go back. I was like, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. Like, just send me back, please. I don't care about the drugs. I just want to go back home with my mom.
You didn't want to be removed. You just wanted someone to help her with the drugs.
Exactly. And go through therapy. And then if she didn't do that in time, then I would be taken away. But they didn't do that.
You did attend court before the rights were terminated. What about after?
I was just like, what's the point of me going? What do I need to know? You know what I'm saying?
I know how I'm living.
I'm living the moment.
Right.
So there's nothing to refute, so.
So the termination happened after about 2 years. How many years later did he come for his first placement with you?
Like 2 years.
So you were in foster care for 2 years after being terminated, where you knew that you couldn't go home to your mom, but you weren't able to live in a foster home other than the group homes that you're bouncing.
Yes.
He had an additional CBHA. He had it a week and a half to 2 weeks after he was at my house the first time. He says, I want to go to the foster home with the lady with the 2 kids. Look in my records. You'll see who I'm talking about.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
That's so funny.
They were like,
and
what?
you were like, meanwhile, like asking, can he come back? Can he come back?
And he was also asking to come back. And it did not happen for quite some time. And over the next several months, would periodically check in with placement to find out if he had placement. So that was like in February. And around like the Halloween time, I reached out and I was like, okay, well, he's got a place. So maybe I can just get him some Christmas presents and like fulfill a Christmas wish list. Those conversations, I finally got to someone. Like,
it's kind of crazy that one night into months of stalking this poor young man.
Yeah, and I was so confused at first. I was like, Nichole, who is that?
Because I was the lady with the kids with the dog and the comfortable bed.
I was like, okay, I think I remember you. Manager of Heads gave me a number and said, this is the person that's been trying to talk to you about some Christmas thing or something like that. And I was like, okay, she was like, give her a call or something like that. And I was like, okay, just go call her right now.
You know this sounds crazy, right?
So I call her. I mean, I was like, hi. She was like, who is this? I was like, it's Francisco. She She was like,
I've been stalking you for months. This is November. He was there in February.
It was crazy.
So I've been stalking this young man for 9 months.
Jan was like, yeah, she's been focused on you throughout these months. I was like, huh? How come I never knew about this. I was like, I could have been with her. You know what I'm saying? And then when the first time she brought me over there, I think it was Jan, and then she was like coming from somewhere, and then
so after all these months of stalking him, he finally agreed to like come over for a visit.
Yeah.
And then I got stuck somewhere with another kid, and I wasn't even there.
Her parents were there.
My parents were there.
I was so tired, so I couldn't really remember her like that. But when I saw her, I was like, huh, you do look familiar. But the kids definitely looked familiar. I was like, okay, I remember you and you. I remember the dog. Nah, she came in and she was like, oh, give me a hug. And I gave her a hug and everything. And it was kind of awkward. I was like, it was an experience. I met her mom.
Because they were like all in. Like my parents were in. Like these were conversations that I'd had.
Because you've been talking about this boy you were stalking.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So your whole family knew. So they wanted to be there when he got there.
Right.
So they could all check him out.
Right.
See if he lived up to it.
To be honest, I had one of the best Christmases I had in over 8 years. From day one, I know I still do sometimes crazy, like a little things that's crazy, but I have improved since the first time that I moved in with her. Yeah. I have made a severe change, and I can see it in myself, And if I would ever go back to those foster parents that rejected me and all the group homes, that even group homes rejected me, because that's how that blue book was just like, I have seen it in myself, my improvements. Especially with like my anger.
Your tolerance is much higher now.
Yeah, it's like before smaller things. Like if you back then if you would be like, oh, go do this. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And there'll be a whole argument. And there'll be a whole argument. Yeah, I see my improvements of a lot of ways since I've been here, and I just got out of orientation today with my job. I just got hired and everything. So
yay!
So he was in the house, eventually came back. We did overnight visits for almost a month, like through the Christmas holiday into January. And then he was allowed to move in.
What was the hardest part about moving into a foster home after living in group homes?
Trying to fit in. I didn't want to have a family. Because the only other family that I know that I had and I was not going to give up on was my mom. And I told her that I wasn't giving up on her. She always thought that I had some type of a grudge on her, because last year I told her that she kept saying about something, and I was like, I've been forgive you about everything. And she started crying, and she's like, oh, you do this and that. I was like, of course, because you're my mom. You know what I'm saying? You gave birth to me. You held me for 9 months, fed me, and the things that I needed. And then
protected you the first 10 years of your life the best she could while she was dealing with her own demons.
Dealing with an abusive relationship. She had to watch her son get beat almost every day because I was hungry and I got some food, and I would get beat for that. Just trying to eat a snack or eat some food, or taking food away from me when I'm eating it and throwing it across the room, and throwing my mom off the toilet while she's using the bathroom. And it was a lot, and she was tired of it. And there was some moments where she was snapping on him, and she noticed that he gets scared of her when she's sober. Because when she's sober, she can think. So when she's not sober, she's like moping around. She looks drowsy. She would blame it on her Xanax, but we all knew usually it was because she was on drugs.
Do you know if she used drugs before she was in the abusive relationship?
She didn't. She was cleaner than anything it was.
So the drugs came as a result of trying to cope with the abusive relationship.
Exactly.
When did you start to feel safer? At what point did you feel like I don't have to walk on eggshells, like I might actually get to stay here a little longer?
When I left, and she still was visiting me and bringing me things and kept trying
and calling everybody to get you home as quick as possible.
Yeah,
I remember.
It was crazy, and I was like, wow, she's just going through all this, and I'm out there, and I was running away. I ran away a couple times after that as well. She still just didn't give up, and that's why I was like, I feel a little bit safer. She just didn't give up on me.
It's a challenging thing to take someone who's spent that much time with their family or in the system and try and convince them that, you know, you can
provide for them,
and
they're safe there,
nurture them. Like, they don't want you in their space. How do you nurture? You know?
Right.
You know how you were saying earlier about me feeling safer and stuff with her. When my grandma passed, it was like very hard for me, and it was, I didn't cry in so long, and my mom was like, oh, you need to, she called me 3 times. My brother was like, hey, my mom needs to tell you something very, very important. And, she was like, oh, you need to be sitting down for this and that. It's going to be very hard. And she told me that my grandma passed. I processed it, but I didn't process it. And then all of a sudden, just like hundreds of memories in my mind go up. And I'm like, okay, you know, I just lost my grandma. Without my grandma, my mom wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be here. Grief is a really hard thing. And it's like, I was able to stay with her for a couple of days because it was only for a visit. She was like, oh, it's time to go. And then she thought I was just playing at first when I was crying and everything. And then
I thought he was like...
Oh, so he wasn't permanently placed with you yet?
He was not permanently placed.
I was on like a visit and I was going back because...
So his grandmother, he got the news that she passed away when we were at the house and he was at the house and we were having to leave. I made sure that he was allowed to stay.
She had me grieve there for about 1 or 2 days. I was spending nights because it was like approved. Yeah. Because at first I was not getting overnights, but it got approved.
So then how much longer after that till he was able to move in?
There was still a bit of time after that.
What happened, I cursed at one of the youngins and it just slipped out because me and her were having an argument and it slipped out on her. I regret it and I said sorry for it and everything and I regret it. It was just because in that moment it escalated between me and her and then she came out. I was like, oh, I can't sleep. And, you know, I was like, and I was furious and it was like she was standing up to me. I was like, you know, I said something. Yeah, I totally regret it. It got her really mad because when it comes to them 3 and now even me, all 4 of us,
Mama Bear,
right?
You
know, she's gonna keep the hive intact. Yeah. So out of all the things she could get pissed off at, I was like, damn. You know what I'm saying? She started going crazy after that. I was like, damn, okay, I'll go to my room now. I was scared. I was like, yeah, you win. Okay? You know, house destroying and stuff and, you know, putting holes in her walls. It will never happen again. I did it. I broke the TV because I let so much things just like I was letting it stack instead of just letting it stack and then release it. And then release it. I was letting it pile up and then I took all my anger and just used it. And I was so furious. I blacked out and I didn't even know what I was doing. Yeah. And I remember doing it, but it was just, I was so angry and I could feel my heart and I could feel my blood rushing through my body.
Like your whole body kind of goes numb, right?
Yeah, it was just so bad. And in my head, I'm like, what am I doing? And then and the outside, I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. Like, but it wasn't funny. And I like, you know, oh my God. And then she still sat down and talked to me right after. And it was like, bro, after all that, you still sit down and try to have a calm conversation. Well, and that's why I feel like foster parents should be like her. You know what I'm saying? You know, you too. You know what I'm saying? I've heard.
Do you think any part of you was like trying to test to see like what you could do that she would like if she would stick it with you?
I literally said, I was like, I told her, I'm going to test you. All right.
Like, I'm sure it wasn't like, I'm going to see if I can like, you were probably just upset about what happened. But do you think a part of you, like, kind of let yourself go there because you wanted to see if you could scare her off? Like, if she was going to stick it out?
Yeah, because really, I did it because I wanted her to see how much anger I had built up inside of me. I just had to let it release. Like, to be honest, in all my life, I think that's probably one of the maddest I've ever been, especially at the age of 17. Yeah. You know, so I was still a youngster.
So were you actually trying to be vulnerable with her and show her, like, what you were feeling?
Yeah.
Even though it felt out of control?
I was just trying to tell her, like, I was just trying to show her, like, how much, like, that I didn't give two craps in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like I needed her to listen, and she wasn't listening. She was like, oh, you know, you need to talk to me calm and have a calm conversation. And I'm like, yeah. But sometimes that doesn't even work. And then like I build up my emotion and build up my aggressiveness through a calm conversation, and it escalated, and I got mad. I threw a freaking coffee thing at the TV. It broke the TV. I started freaking I was walking and just flying through stuff off the counters and stuff because I was so mad. But with the safe part, I always feel safe. I feel at home. I feel like I always have somebody to go to if I need help, especially with the job. I was like, so what do I do when that happens? And that's why I kind of appreciate all she's done. And I got like everything that I ever wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like a big bed. I was like, when I first came to her, this is what I said. I was like, this big old bed. I am very like loved and everything where
I know.
I mean, yeah, you would know, you know.
When you first either heard or talked to her about being adopted, like what did that feel like?
I was going back and forth. I was like, I don't know. Then I was like, yeah, I want to get adopted.
You found out she wanted to adopt you. At first, you were kind of iffy on it. At some point, you came around.
When I was like, man, when my mom finds out, you know what I'm saying? I don't want her to break her heart. She's like, right now, she has no children. The abusive stepfather keeps the babies away from her, doesn't even lets her call them or anything. I don't even know what they sound like.
Yeah.
They look like. So me and my brother, my brother's 21. You know, he actually lives in Daytona, near Daytona Beach, Florida.
So does he have a relationship with your mom?
Right now, my mom gets all mad. You know, she cries because she's like, you know, Junior, you're the only person I can really talk to. And that's why she blows me up a lot, because she knows that I would pick up. And my brother is always supposedly busy.
So when you were removed, he was not removed?
No, because he was with his dad.
You still have a relationship with her, so you were concerned about if you got adopted, how that would make her feel. Did you tell her that you were getting adopted?
Yeah, I did. I was like, you know, I'm about to get adopted and everything. And then after the adoption, you know, I could just feel a change in the air, especially with her, because it's just the way she was talking and everything. She was
sad.
She lost everything, you know, and it's not fair. And I'm not giving up on my mom. Like, when
you decided to move forward with the adoption and the adoption happened, like what changed?
I was just like, I'll try it. I'm ready. I guess I'm ready to start a new life with a new family and actually be considered her day one, basically. I was just ready. I guess I was like, maybe two families is better than one, you know? And she posted all over, but like the shirts was, does it like take DNA to be family? And for a while I was telling her like, oh, we'd never be a family. We're not even blood. That's why I talked to you. Because he was like, oh, you don't talk to your mom like that. Because I was like, oh yeah, she's blood. That's my real mom. Her showing her emotions with me and her talking to me and everything. She was open, and she didn't hide anything from me. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was like, you know what? I think that's what a real mother does. You know what I'm saying? That sometimes I thought her rights was wrong for me because my mom would have did it differently. It was just weird for me at first because through group homes, I had to live with the knowledge that the knowledge that my mom taught me, and two, the knowledge I kind of been learning throughout foster care.
What you procured to survive.
So, yeah, and you have to it's like you're living on your own in foster care. It's especially in group home. It's like you're living on your own. Until you're 18, you're still living on your own. Yeah. You know, they just kick you out. Goodbye. Where you want to be, where you want to go. Boom. Drop you off there. Boom. Goodbye. Deuces. Yeah. You know, and it's effed up. You know, it's not right. You know, but they have these extended things and they still don't do much. Right. You know, they still don't do much.
You know, I'm sure she's told you a million times what your mom has said in our conversations and probably on the podcast as well. Like she would never considered herself like a replacement for any of her adopted kids' parents, that she just wants to be the extra, you know? Yeah. And that she never wanted to take their place because she never can take their place. So yeah. So I'm sure she's already told you that a million times, but did it feel different after the adoption, or was it just kind of the same?
It was a new beginning of something. Like, she showed me a book about this guy and the girl that I think they're like married now. They created a book or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's actually interesting. You know, it's kind of like my story. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like everybody has the chance to show who they really are, because you could have 3 Super Bowl winning champions in your house right now. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. You know what I'm saying? You really could, you know? Yeah. And it's like, they can't show that potential because they're bouncing around group homes, and they don't have somebody to pay for them to actually get the training they need, or go to a school and actually play.
Or stay in a school long enough, or stay in a home long enough to be able to join a league.
They're missing months of school, and then they go one day, and then
What was something that made it hard to be a teenager in foster care versus a little kid?
Foster homes don't ever want you. If I was a little kid, I'd be in a foster home quicker than quick, because, you know. But being a teenager was really, really hard. It was like I said, being in jail. You got kids beating you up, and it's just really hard just being a teenager.
What do you want people to know about teenagers in foster care?
Don't judge somebody by the book, you know, give them a chance, because it's not right to judge somebody before you actually get to know them. You personally can make that person into somebody better, and you would feel probably good about yourself, because you just made a teenager from breaking windows, running away, smoking weed, doing crazy things, to maybe being a NBA basketball player, or being an owner of Apple, or being somebody in life. You know what I'm saying? And wouldn't you feel good about yourself if you pushed a child to go the route he wanted to go? And you would feel good about yourself? Because I would too. If I helped a child, that like, I would feel really good about myself, because I'm like, dang, I just helped. Like, you know, I feel super good about myself. Like, my ancestors would be proud of me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
why do you think people are scared to open their homes up to teens?
Destruction, attitude. I understand.
Listen, the most destruction in my house came from a 5-year-old.
Like, there's teenagers out there needing help, and they want to be somebody in life. I can't say much, because I wanted to be somebody in life, but, you know, I want to be like a YouTuber. My favorite YouTuber is Corey X Kenshin. He's like one of my favorite YouTubers. I've been watching him since 200,000 subscriers, and he's at 13.2 million right now.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been watching him since I was
you're like the OG.
I wish. Getting this job is even one step closer. Getting better equipment for my PC setup, and getting better a graphics card, or a processor, and a better everything, and achieving my goal, you know what I'm saying, of just being, I want to be just one of the best.
You just graduated high school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are getting
5 months ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You are getting a job. Like, you are making good, healthy choices for your life. Yep. Like, that's a lot for someone who was in your old place to be looking up to. What advice would you give foster parents who are open to teens?
Stay patient, because, you know, that's the biggest. Because with a teenager, you're going to need patience, because it's like, it was like, wow, I did all these things. And the way she fixed them was, one, I didn't want to do therapy. It's a whole nother conversation, but patience is really needed, especially with a teenager. Give them space. Yeah. But sometimes it's good to be clingy. Yeah. Because that's how she was, and I got so mad every day. Stop coming to my room. I'm trying to chill by myself. Get out my room. She was always clingy and keep trying and attacking me, and I think that is a personal good way to do. Yeah. Yes, give them their personal space. Yeah. But
be persistent.
You need more, because I just got you as a teenager, and I don't know you too much, and I need to push you to your limits, because that's how you're going to be great. You know what I'm saying? She's helped me see that I could be a better person, you know what I'm saying? And not the person that I was a few years ago, you know, and be the person that I can be today. And she doesn't judge me by the person that I am today, or her family, or the kids. The kids always be like, I love you, Sisco, I love you, I love you, like, every day. And I'm like, I love you too. Yeah, like, stop saying it. Like, they'll get so happy. They'll be like so happy. Like, when I was a kid, I'd be so happy. I'd be like, I love you, Mom. Like, because they're so happy in that moment, they're going to want to say it. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. So I'm like, bro, can you shut up? Like, you're not just saying that because she's doing this for you. Like we go to McDonald's or something, like, I love you, Mommy. I'm like, what, bro? Like, now you love her so much? Like, of course they love her either way, but it's like, it's even more love when they get to go to McDonald's and stuff. So I'm like, bro, shut up. Like I said, you just need patience, especially with a teenager, and that's what she did. And look at me now. You know what I'm saying? The guy that I am today and the guy I might be in the next 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So especially with Papa, he helped me a lot too to realize he was only there for like a week and he already seen potential in me. Every day I would have somebody come up to me and be like, bro, I see potential. I'm like, how do you see potential in me? Like they'll be like, bro, you are smart. You're this. I'm like, bro, I don't even see that in myself. How do you see that? You know, I had people tell me that all my life. I was getting frustrated. I went to my room. He came down and sat down. Didn't even really know me like that and was opening up to me. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, I have an amazing relationship with him because that's what he did.
He's a good dude.
He is. He really is, because he was like a little father figure to me. He sat down and had a conversation with me and cooled me down. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? Thank you. I was like, thank you, Papo. He was like, hey, I'll be out here if you need me. He's like moving down from Philly and everything.
Yeah, we just heard the story. On the playground is where he spent most of his days. Relaxing, all cool, shooting some b-balls. What makes you feel heard and respected?
When I say things to her, this is just like food wise. I'll just throw in some food. Oh, can maybe one day you get some zebra cakes or something like that. The next day, the zebra cake, I'm walking in, I was like, what's in the zebra cakes? When did these get here? Wait. Like she hears me and I like not just even with food, like even with things that I want to do, not just even just food. I
feel like there's going to be more zebra cakes in the house this week.
I mean, but
like I grew up on those things. Every time my mom got her food stamps, we used to walk up to the store. We got them 50-cent. You remember them 50-cent little Debbie cakes? We got the little zebra cakes. I'd be like, Mom, can I get one, please? She's like, grab one, Junior. I'm like, let's go. I used to be so happy. Oh my God, I used to devour the zebra cake. It used to be gone. Really how I'm heard is that if I say something to her, she hears it and she doesn't forget it. Being respected is like, if I say, hey, I just don't want to talk right now, she'll respect that. I don't know. I still kind of have that issue now. Like she'll be like, oh, I don't want to talk right now. And she hangs up. I'm like, Sisco, calm down. Calm down. It's not that
hard.
serious.
The boundary that he wants respected is hard for him to respect.
But I'm realizing it and I'm working on it.
Which is incredible at his age to be recognizing things like that. And him recognizing that is what's going to continue to grow this incredible man. Right.
She has a lot of respect towards me, and I have medium respect what she has to say. Right. It's been not like I'm talking about respect her like in the ways like, oh, you don't need to be doing this. I'm like, like, I don't want to be doing that. Like, I'm not respecting that.
I think that's a fairly normal teenage response.
But her hearing me out just now, it's true. Like, everything I've been through with her, the things she did, she's done for me. And I've realized it, you know, but then I still kind of push her away. And I don't know why, but I shouldn't let that. I shouldn't, like, let all the, like, the little negative, the little things just push me away from her. Like, you know, I want to be in my room all day, this and that. I should have been more clingy. At the end of the day, she's still the one that's helping me out about everything, even if I'm not even clingy.
And she also stalked you for 9 months.
She stalked me for 9 months, exactly.
There's a lot of push and pull. While there was attachment built for him in those younger years, there was a lack of attachment for so many years.
Well, and he just said, like, he felt like he was raising himself for those years.
Right, exactly.
What is something that you think can be changed in the system that would help teens in foster care?
Instead of getting them placed straight off the back into group homes, get foster homes. Because one, you would never build that reputation up in group homes. Right. Jumping out the windows and shit. Because I got sent to a foster home like when I was 12. Yeah. I would still be there. Yeah. Because guess what? I would still have all the respect that I've had. didn't smoke weed yet. I didn't do anything yet.
Right. A lot less exposure.
So exactly. And I feel like teenagers should off the rap get sent to a foster home. That's the biggest change that could happen. And I bet you $1,000 that most teenagers, it would be way different.
I don't know if you know anything about the stats, but a lot of teens that are in foster care end up in the criminal justice system because of their experiences. And based on what I've heard from others, based on what I've heard from you, they're basically taking care of themselves. And as we've discussed, that decision-making part of your brain isn't developed till 25, but you're put in a position where you have to make your own decisions. And there's no one parenting you and nurturing you. And if they are telling you what to do, it's from an authoritative message, not a loving, like, I want to take care of you and I want the best for you. So this is why we're not going to do that. Instead, it's just rules and authority. It makes sense that those kids that are going through that are going to end up in the juvenile justice system because of the exposure, because nobody's parenting them and helping them make those decisions. So if more foster homes would take teens, that would help minimize the amount of criminal justice that is needing to be dealt with from the kids.
It's just a huge domino effect.
Right. Like, instead of them going to jail, they will be going to college, you know?
Or trade school.
Or trade school.
Military.
Military.
Just starting to get a job.
Jack Daddy went from high school to college, and in college that first semester struggled and said, not sure if this is for me. He has some learning disability, so he didn't really have the confidence to do that. So he went and worked for Walmart for like a year. And after a year at Walmart was like, I'm going back to college, man. So the value of him getting that job at Walmart was...
It changed the trajectory.
I have to work so hard to make such a small amount of money that I would rather go spend some time in college, even though that's hard too. It's going to result in a larger paycheck in the end.
Right.
And despite his learning disabilities, he was able to graduate from college with honors, like on the dean's list.
Nice.
You know,
Wow.
That Walmart job was actually very valuable for him.
What made you decide to come here and tell us your story today?
I always want to help people. Like,
You wanted to help.
I wanted to help out, of course.
When you're grown and you've done your thing and you're ready to have a family, would you ever consider being a foster parent or getting involved in some way?
Maybe one day, maybe I might think about it. It's going to be a hard decision. It's going to be a hard decision for me. It should be an easy one because all the stuff I've been through.
We have these boards sitting here, and they have words on them that mean foster care. And a bunch of different people have kind of contributed to them. So without stealing a word from those boards, what is one word that you would use to describe foster care?
I would say reunite. Like, I got this word from you because you said foster care is not just about, just people just want to get thrown anywhere, but it's for
reunification.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So,
repairing families and helping them.
Exactly.
reunify.
So
That's what it's supposed to do.
I'm stealing that word from you. It should go on the board. And that's the true meaning of foster care for me.
We'll make a new board for you. What do you do when you're struggling to help yourself feel better? Like, what's your self-care?
This should be easy. Video games.
Anime too, like
anime,
Dragon Ball.
Well, I go to and then, like, charge him up like I'm Goku or something like that. It's just like,
what is one positive change that you would like to see in foster care?
Even with group homes, they should pay attention more to the kid instead of focusing on themselves, because most of them, they just focus on themselves.
What do you think that the community could do to prevent more kids from needing to come into foster care?
Don't just go there. Oh, we're here to take away your kid. Give them a chance to get help or do something.
Like more of those safe at home
Safe at home, exactly.
Programs. Make
And
that kind of the first level.
Make
of
that
defense.
the first level. Maybe something else, more like a person that actually stays there all day. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Not like, oh, you're there for a couple hours. Like, more like, oh, starting from the morning when everybody wakes up, and then we'll be monitoring all day. You know what I'm saying?
So hiring staff to kind of, or people to kind, or maybe like a targeted case manager or something to come into people's homes
and spend more time there.
More time there and see if that makes a change. If not, third and final step is when they got nothing else to do. And I feel like that's the point where they just need to be like, we're going to be taking your kid for a while until you can be in a better place, in a better state, in a better mindset.
But then at least they've been given a chance.
Yes, at least they've been giving basically two chances.
Right. So that first level is that safe at home.
Exactly.
And then if that's still not quite working, bringing in that person that's in the home
Exactly.
longer hours.
Like probably like morning to like 6 p.m. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess, I mean, even if they did that one day a week, right?
Exactly.
It can help.
Yeah.
Can kind of model how to do things or give them ideas. All right, it's not a bad idea because then you're like immersing yourself.
Yeah, and having a better understanding of how
that
then
unit runs.
Even if the kid does end up needing to be removed, you'll have a better understanding of how to help.
Yeah.
I got brains.
We know.
Yeah, I know. That's a really good idea. I hadn't really thought about anything like that.
Sisco, what are your goals to make positive change in your local community?
Well, maybe like sit down. I'm not a therapist, but I will say this: I could be good at talking.
I mean, you make people laugh. I think that's you should have your own podcast.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, just I guess like sit down, maybe talk. If they're going through something, if you see they're going through something, be like, hey, you want to talk? You know, you look pretty frustrated. Positivity, you know what I'm saying? If you know,
caring about
like my auntie said, she's not my auntie, no blood, but I call her my auntie. She said, being mad is a secondary emotion because when you're mad, you do things like you're on drugs you don't want to do and you don't know what you're doing. Being happy and everything, that's on a regular emotion. Being mad is not the emotion you should have. You know, that's a secondary emotion.
Anger is secondary because anger is usually caused by something like frustration or sadness or.
I am so glad you came to sit down with us and you were so open and honest and true to everything that's happened to you. I'm super proud of you. So thank you so much for coming here today and speaking so frankly and honestly about some really, really hard stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on social. We hope that you join us again next time and keep on fostering the future.